Okay, I have finally finished my garden exhibit. It is 12:25 a.m. and I wanted to show everybody how it turned out. So, we've got a bunch of images from fix.com and custommade.com. And starting over here, we focus on container gardening and small spaces. This is a display of a pre-made raised bed kit from McLendon's. Thank you, McLendon's, for having stuff for me to display. Some potato tubs and this planter also from McLendon's. Moving over into do-it-yourself garden supports, vertical gardening, rooftop gardening for urban kids, straw bale gardening down here. This is a planter from Windmill Gardens. Actually, all of these over here are too. Thank you, Windmill, for having these planters for display. This one is mostly focused on pollinators, attracting pollinators with echinacea, some salvia, rudbeckia, crocosmia. Here's my apple tree in a tiny pot, showing that you can grow apples in pots. This planter from Windmill has a dwarf grape growing up the center. It's got some parsley over there and then edible flowers, so the violas and pansies are edible. There's wintergreen in here for edible berries and oregano. This is another integrated pot that has, I think these are leeks in the center. We've got some multicolor sage, thyme, there's a kale in the back, some more thyme, this is oregano down here, and then more edible violas there. We've got some stuff from Windmill on display. Another planter from Windmill with, I think this is red celery, more thyme, and more violas. Here we get into attracting pollinators on the information sheets, how to live with and identify different bees and wasps. Moving into beneficial insects and attracting them. So we've got this little awesome mason bee hotel, also from Windmill Gardens, thank you. And then how to make your own up here. This is my current tomato plant to show that tomatoes can be grown even on your windowsill. And then we've got pests and how to deal with them. Here is the container of the yellow woolly bears that I collected off of my bleeding hearts. And then here we've got some information on gardening that helps to attract wildlife and increase biodiversity. Moving over into water conservation using gray water. We have this lovely rain barrel from McLendon's, and it just so happened that these little leaves were stapled to these cedar boards, and I had to move them in order to get my pictures up. So they make the perfect demonstration of how this sieve works to keep debris out from when you've got your rain gutter going down and leaves are going down from your roof. Here is my Meyer lemon that completely died back all the way to the ground this winter because I completely forgot to water it all winter long, and this is what it looks like now. So I'm pretty proud of that. It is pretty sad on the magnesium scale. I did recently water it with Epsom salts, so I'm hoping it'll turn around. I get that every time I try to grow dwarf citrus. Here we're getting into composting, and again, more of the water conservation tips. Composting. This is my little pepper plant. These are those Mexican sour gherkins that everybody's going crazy over. Little shameless promotion for my succulent business. This is it's actually a compost bin that I've turned into a worm bin, and there's some scraps in there along with some shredded paper that's nice and moist, and there's worms down in there to kind of show you, somewhere in there, that you can use worms to make excellent compost. Here we have just basically dividing up a room using some different ideas using plants. And let me grab my staple gun. Some information on using worms in the kitchen, winterizing your garden. And here is a greenhouse from McLendon's. This is Diane Hemming's aquaponics setup with her betta tombstone. He's sleeping in the back there. He came all the way from Indonesia. We imported him. And he is displaying a small-scale aquaponics where basically he produces poop and it gets drawn up into the filtration system. There are rocks in the bottom of these pots that allow the water to pass over the roots of these plants. The plants then take that poop and turn it into plant material, leaving mostly clean water going back into his tank. So it's a really great system. This one is just kind of a countertop model. You can put like dwarf frogs in there if you wanted to. It doesn't have a light on it, so you can't grow too many plants in there. At least I haven't found a light switch on it. She's got some rosemary, basil, a couple of different kinds of basils, chives. I think this might be lemon verbena. I'm not sure. But anyway, thank you, Diane, for letting me display that. And then we've got a little bit of information about aquaponics and hydroponics and the difference between the two. This is a half whiskey barrel from McLendon's and also a trellis, just to kind of give people an idea that you can use something like this and use the trellis to maximize your grow space. So instead of having a huge plot for a single pumpkin plant, for example, you could plant the pumpkin in this whiskey barrel, and it would have plenty of room for its root space, and then train it up the trellis instead of letting it sprawl across the ground. It winds up saving a lot more space. You wind up losing a lot less fruit because it's up off the ground. The worms don't get it. The rats don't necessarily get it. Some of them I've had climb the trellis, and unfortunately they do sometimes get into it, but it's less likely. And you can have better aeration around the leaves because squashes can get powdery mildew and stuff like that fairly easily. Increasing the aeration around it helps to prevent those diseases. So anyway, that's my exhibit. We've got several others around the barn. We've got Nigerian dwarfs. This is Celeste's stuff. Celeste had a little bit of a tragedy today, unfortunately. We've got all milking dairy goats along that far wall. We're not completely loaded in yet. This is Celeste's table with some information about her stuff. I have this here telling you about how much can you grow in the area that you have. And then we get into the actual homesteading kind of section. My tabletop cider press, some canned apple cider, the fermenting crock I use to make stuff like sauerkraut, and actually made the apple cider vinegar there from the pressings that we had left over from the cider press. So it was total recycling all the way around. Some information on root storage. So these potatoes have been doing great. This is just some white pine shavings, I believe, in this nifty little container that Ginny's mom got for us. Thank you. I did manage to get an onion braid going this year. That is actually shallots, yellow shallots. And then we got information on canning, the strainer, all the equipment. Somebody else is going to be bringing some stuff tomorrow, but I thought I'd throw this stuff up there in case you didn't have as much. I've got my canned goods on display over here. We've got some bunnies over here. She's playing a trick on some people. She brought an American chinchilla, which is this guy, and then chinchilla colored other breeds. So we've got a mini Rex, a mini Lop, and this is a young Flemish giant. This guy will be about 18 pounds when he's fully grown. Here we have some Kuni pigs. They stay pretty small. That's mom over there and a couple of babies. And then we have, I believe those are American sable rabbits. I'm not sure who brought them. This one is really interactive. He's super cute. Aren't you? Hi. These guys are so cool. These are the woolly pigs. They're called Mangalistas. They're a heritage breed. I think they're the coolest thing. We're getting down into the chicken coop man section. So over in this blank area, we're going to have a person bringing cedar planters and so forth. Getting down into the chicken coops. This is where we're going to have the spinners and fiber samples for you to feel. I brought my couple of them here. This is not set up at all yet. These are Brenda's animals down here. We have a couple of alpacas and then a couple of llamas down here. Here's the poultry. We'll come back around to them. These guys are Brenda's White Park cattle. They're a dwarf breed. These are last year's calves. And then we've got a mini red Dexter heifer over here, also a yearling. Doug is a guy that displays his hay for sale, and so we've got hay all over the place here. He brought his mini Jersey and her calf, adorbs, and some pigs. I'm not 100% sure what kind they are. And this cute little Jersey calf over here. Look at her. Look at her. Don't you just want to pet her? Just touch her face. Alright, we got chickens, courtesy of Dr. Honorati. And his blue slate turkeys, male and female. Everybody's sleeping because it's, 1 a.m. 2 Indian runner ducks, 2 Pekins. Oh, calm down. Some of you may recognize this handsome man. He was brought into South Sound Critical Care with an enormous burn across his chest. It took us a couple of months to rehab him. We don't normally take in domestics, but I basically said I'll take him because, look at him. He's got so much personality, and the way he wiggles that butt, I cannot get over it. So he wound up being rehabbed. He's here on display. He wound up getting a free woman. Somebody else had, unfortunately, the drake get killed by something, and she was lonely, so he got a woman. But Muscovies tend to be a little bit mean towards other ducks, so that's why they're not hanging out with these guys over here. And more coops. You want to take a look at these goats over here? There's one sheep. Don't tell anyone. We had a run-in of a certain disease that transfers between sheep and cows a couple of years ago on the fairgrounds, and so they try and keep them separated now. But these sheep live with cows in their natural environment, so we're just kind of hoping nobody notices it's not a goat. Some goats here. Nubians. Some more Nubians. Sonnens. Guernseys. Check out this Guernsey. Look how pretty. Long hair. Yeah? You think I'm gonna feed you? I'm not. Hi. Tomorrow Celeste is bringing her pony, and he'll live in that far pen there. This is a buck, and therefore he's not in with everybody else. And then all of her goats. She's got Kinders, that's a mini La Mancha there. Yeah, mini Nubians. I think Alpins somewhere in there. And then over on the far side is a Angora. And I already have dibs on the fibers, so piss off, you bitches. And then the standard size La Manchas. Mama and baby. So that's it. I am done for today. I may not be here until 11 tomorrow because I don't feel like I need to be here. This stuff pretty much explains itself. And I'm signing out. All right, laters.